Fresh meat.
The sophomore slump. It's every filmmaker's greatest fear. If your first film starts off as a big hit, there ends up being a lot of expectations about what you'll do next. Hopefully, the story will be something that the audience latches onto as much as the first film. If not, then it can be disheartening and make you wonder if you've already peaked as a storyteller your first time out of the gate. There are plenty of stories of filmmakers like Kevin Smith breaking out of it after Mallrats, but the earth-shattering realization of exactly how Hollywood works took its toll on one Sam Raimi and company. After the highs of getting worldwide recognition with The Evil Dead, Raimi set his sights on making a Hitchcockian comedy with Crime Wave. The experience would bring him crashing to the ground when studio interference made the production one of the worst experiences in his filmmaking career. Even his longtime partner and star, Bruce Campbell, almost walked away from the business after dealing with clashing personalities and over-enthusiastic producers. So let's find out exactly what happened during the making of Crime Wave here on What the Happened to This. Now, before you fill up the comments, yes, this may not technically be a horror, but with a flick that's filled with murders, directed by Sam Raimi, and starring Bruce Campbell, I'd argue it can be classified as a horror comedy. And according to Wikipedia, it is. So, let's find out exactly what happened during the making of Crime Wave, here on What the Happened to This horror comedy movie. I want to thank you guys for watching What the Happened to This horror movie, and ask that if you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now, like this video, and click on the bell so you can be notified each time a new video goes up. And now, back to the show. After The Evil Dead made waves in the worldwide film marketplace, Raimi and company were ready for their next film. While some would expect them to continue in the horror genre, they actually preferred to do more comedic films. A lot of the short films they had produced when they were younger show their love of such comedic performers as the Three Stooges. They had looked at horror as an easy entry into the film world, as they sold easily in just about every market. With their first effort behind them now, it was time to look ahead at what they would like to really do. For this, Raimi would turn to some new friends. Their editor, Edna, told them they should read this script from some friends of hers. Both Sam and Bruce rolled their eyes as they figured it would be some awful screenplay by a couple of random guys. When they read it, they were surprised to find that they loved it. Sam agreed to meet with them, and soon he was working on the script for the new movie with Joel and Ethan Coen. The script they had read was for their yet-to-be-made film, Blood Simple. Raimi had the idea for a comedic take on a Hitchcock film. In it, an average guy would get swept up in the wake of two merciless killers and end up being accused of their murders. In the film, young Vic Ajax is a lowly security guard. When the partners that own the security company have a disagreement on whether to sell the business or not, one of them hires two killers/hitmen to take him out. After doing so, Vic gets accused of the murder, while the killers also go after the other partner and even Vic himself. In between all of this, Vic falls in love with Nancy. Their relationship keeps getting interrupted by the killers and Hinaldo, the heel, who has his own plans with Nancy. What ensues is slapsticky hijinks as they try to escape from the killers and also clear Vic's name. After The Evil Dead, financing was easily put in place for this film, but instead of random bored dentists or doctors who wanted to invest in young upstarts like on the first movie, they were now dealing with real Hollywood companies. What initially seemed like a blessing would soon turn into a curse. Even though Bruce Campbell was a producer on this film, it was assumed that he would also play the lead of Vic. Reality set in. New producers from Embassy Pictures insisted that Campbell do a screen test for the role. He reluctantly agreed. After seeing the screen test, the producers insisted that he would not be playing the lead character. Campbell was obviously disappointed, but Raimi reassured him that he would expand the role of Hinaldo the heel for Bruce to play in an effort to keep him on set as much as possible. The producers said they needed more notable names for the leads so they could sell the movie worldwide. Campbell asked if that was what they just did with a bunch of no names for The Evil Dead, but it didn't get him anywhere. For the killers, Brian James and Paul L. Smith were hired. In the film, they are equally zany and cartoon-like, but on set it ended up being a different story. Reports are that Raimi and Smith did not get along very well. According to regular Raimi collaborator Scott Spiegel, Smith wasn't very cooperative. Because of this, all of his dialogue had to be dubbed in post-production. James, on the other hand, had other issues. During production, he caused quite a stir when he trashed his hotel room in the middle of the night. He claimed that the ghost of his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend was haunting them, and he was in the light fixtures. In order to get rid of the ghost, he had to trash the room and remove the lights. No word on if that ended up exorcising the ghost or not. In his book, If Chins Could Kill, Campbell says he believes something else might have been a factor in that incident. In one of his producer jobs, Campbell ended up having to wrangle actress Louise Lasser. She would frequently lock herself in her trailer and refuse to come out. Bruce would get a call on his radio and have to go over and talk her into coming out of the trailer to shoot her scenes. One day proved especially hard after she fired the makeup person. She claimed the girl didn't know how to do her makeup and that she would just do it herself. When she arrived on set, people claimed that she had painted her face stark white with bright red lipstick. In an effort to make things go more smoothly, they would let her do her makeup, and then when she got on set without any mirrors around, they would tell her they were going to do a touch-up and redo her makeup completely. While the film was being shot, Embassy Pictures was watching the dailies as they came in. They began to get frustrated as Raimi would have crew members stand in for smaller parts. They asked why the same people were playing numerous different roles in the background. Famously, Raimi has done this frequently enough that it got its own nickname, Shemping. This referred to the fact that in numerous Three Stooges films, a fake Shemp had to be used after his sudden death in 1955. Raimi used this all the time in his short films and didn't see a need to stop now. Bruce Campbell even did another role as a news reporter in one scene. The studio got angry about it and called to complain, but Campbell was able to smooth it over, claiming that his character was a newscaster for his day job. One week, during some night shoots, they were using giant wind machines. This just happened to be directly in front of a retirement home for these shots. One night, a bottle fell and broke onto the street. It was found that inside it was a small note that read, quote, "The noise is keeping me awake all night long, and I am getting sick. I am dying because of you." Another job of Campbell's on set was as second unit director. He would capture some of the smaller items, like a foot stomping down on a gas pedal or a hand turning a doorknob. One of the shots he needed was looking over a bridge they had already shot on. The problem was, since they had shot there, the river had frozen over. He knew he had to break up the ice within the camera frame, so he and the crew began throwing items off the bridge to break it up. After a few items that did minimal damage, he found a cinder block. After throwing it, he noticed a mitten floating down the river and began laughing that some jerk had lost a mitten in the river. When he looked down at his hand, he realized that it had actually been his. It had gotten stuck to the cinder block and followed it down. With nothing really working in a satisfactory manner, the crew wired up some primer cord, which is used to create explosions. They blew it up and cleared out the shot. The film ended up going over schedule and over budget. Campbell says their inexperience caused this downfall. They didn't know anything about overtime or unions. On The Evil Dead, they just went until the shoot was done. If it took 12 hours to get one take, then that's just how long it took. This caused a lot of frustration at Embassy Pictures. After 12 weeks, filming finally finished and editing began in Detroit. After a few weeks, Embassy Pictures hated everything they were seeing coming from the editing room. They called Bruce, Sam, and Rob Tapert into their office. The producers informed them that they were moving the editing from Detroit to LA so they could keep a better eye on it. They also told them that they could only afford to bring 2 of them out to LA to oversee it. Bruce became annoyed and said, quote, "How many people do you see in front of you? There are 3 of us." Campbell then says again in his book that the producer jumped out of his chair and yelled, "Listen here, asshole, you went over budget." Campbell told them that they could pay for whoever many they wanted, but all 3 of them were going to be there to finish the movie, and then walked out of the room. He returned to the car while Sam and Rob finished the meeting. In the end, the company did pay for all 3 of them to stay in LA. Sam hated the process after his editor and composer were replaced by the studio. He still laments it as the worst moment of his career, saying, quote, "It was really wrong. It was such a horrible, 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 depressing scene." The film was finally finished, but it didn't end up taking the world by storm. Due to an agreement with HBO, it had to have a theatrical run before they could pick it up, so the studio played it in theaters in Kansas and Alaska to fulfill that obligation. After that, it fell into cable rerun obscurity. The weird, gross-out genre feel of the movie seemed to doom it. Overseas, it appeared to garner a bit more of a positive reputation. Some equate this to film audiences there being more attuned to weird slapstick comedy being mixed in with other genres. In France, the movie was retitled Death on the Grill, while in Italy, it was titled The 2 Craziest Killers in the World. Maybe a better representative title of the weird, goofy nature of the film than Crime Wave. Campbell says it only ever had 1 positive screening. At a film festival in Seattle, the host of the festival came out and said that the film they were about to see was very silly. Everyone should put on their silly hat and just go with it. With the audience clued into the nature of the film before they saw it, helped them to be prepared for the goofy and slapstick nature of Crime Wave. Sam has ended up disowning the film due to the bad memories attached to it. Bruce himself almost quit acting from the experience he had, opting instead to just stay in Michigan and make goofy short films with his friends. This incident showed him that a lot of people in Hollywood just looked at everything as a business. There was no enjoyment from anything they worked on, and everything felt very soulless. If both Sam and Bruce had given up at this point, film history would have been altered forever. Luckily, they would regroup and decide to go back to what had worked for them in the past. The work on Crime Wave made them resolve to go back to the horror genre after Dino De Laurentiis came calling for Evil Dead 2. If they hadn't returned to the character of Ash in the Evil Necronomicon, the world would be a lesser place. While Crime Wave now has a cult following among Raimi's filmography, it still harbors difficult memories for those that live through it. Campbell has said that while Evil Dead was a lesson in winning, Crime Wave was a lesson in abject failure. It can feel good to be on top, but the lessons of falling to the bottom can be just as educational. While those lessons can be hard, hopefully it will keep the rest of your efforts going forward as... groovy. Thank you for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our Joe Blow Videos channel. Tell your friends who like this sort of content and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all our latest videos. We are an independent company and we appreciate your support. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes, please leave them in the comments below.